this is not a drill. Caught unaware, the warships have only a minimal power supply.
We didn't have any power to train the guns and elevate the guns or to bring up the ammunition from the storage. So we had to do that by manually.
Japanese aircraft fly so low that American sailors are staring their attackers in the face.
I saw these planes crossing, went right over the submarine base and making the dive, and then come on in and come in low, drop their torpedoes.
Oh, I guess he was 40 or 50 feet from me. He just barely went right down the side of our ship, right off the top of the water. He was at eye level.
As I was going up the ladder, a plane came flying right down the port side of the ship, and I could see the pilot and the co-pilot, and they were laughing for all they were worth.
The Japanese have spent months customizing torpedoes, which can operate in the shallow Pearl Harbor waters. By 8 o'clock, the West Virginia is hit.
I saw 2 torpedoes streaking toward the ship. One hit forward of me and one hit aft of me. And after that, everything was confusion.
The West Virginia is shattered by 6 torpedoes and 2 bombs. The forward and middle sections of the hull are hit. The ship is eviscerated.
Like I facetiously say, I slept through the rest of the battle because the 3rd torpedo or 4th torpedo, one of those, knocked me out. I must have been thrown against the bulkhead of the deck or somewhere, and I was completely out. And of course, they thought I was dead. They moved me to the starboard side of the ship, stacked me up with the dead bodies.
Others are still fighting for their lives. In the heat of battle, a gun barrel makes a beeline away from the West Virginia to the neighboring ship, the Tennessee.
The barrel is bigger than a railroad tie, and when I was a kid, I used to run up and down railroad ties. When we climbed up on the barrel of the gun, you could walk right out to the end of it. It made a pathway.
The sailors make it to the next ship, but with fire threatening to consume Battleship Row, safety is still a swim away.
We stripped down. I says, we aren't going to dive. We're going to jump feet first. Now, I'm not an underwater swimmer. But I guess you know, I swam underwater that day.
While the West Virginia struggles for survival, the Japanese pilots home in on their next target. At 8:05, a torpedo explodes, ripping the keel off the USS Arizona.
I was up in the compartment reading a comic book, and that's when I realized we were under attack.
At around 8:10, a bomb scores a direct hit on the forward magazine of the Arizona. The architect of the inferno watches the devastation from above.
We were about to begin our second bombing run when there was a colossal explosion in Battleship Row. A huge column of dark red smoke rose to 1,000 meters. The shock wave was felt even in my plane, several miles away from the harbor.
It was horrifying because as the bomb hit the starboard side of the forecastle deck, it was just a gigantic explosion.
Can you envision 1 million pounds of TNT blowing up?
You had burning oil all over the top of the water, and you had black smoke, and then you had fire in the ship. And so those young kids were trying to jump into the burning water from the mast. Some of them made it, some of them didn't. You could tell they were hitting on the main deck, and of course you know what happened when they, 150 feet down below, they hit the main deck.
More than 1,000 men are killed in the inferno, but some sailors are blown clear by the blast.
I estimated there were about 32 bodies that went flying through the air.
The next thing I knew, I was in the water. Evidently, I was blown over the side. And I can truthfully say that before you sits a miracle. I got a guardian angel. I think I must have several of them.
The Arizona is a raging fireball. Less than 1,000 feet away, a different kind of horror is embracing the Oklahoma.
They taught me, going through training, that you could not sink a battleship.
What is happening to the Oklahoma proves that notion disastrously wrong. (8:10 a.m., December 7th, 1941. Battleship Row in Pearl Harbor has been pulverized by a surprise Japanese attack. The Arizona has exploded with the loss of 1,000 lives. The West Virginia is sinking. The Oklahoma, packed with 1,000 men, is experiencing a very different and horrifying fate.
We got hit by 3 rapid torpedoes. Just boom, 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 and the ship raised up out of the water. It seemed like the bow come up out of the water and it settled back down. It went dark and the ship started turning to port. And when the ship started turning over, all the water started coming through the vent system in the compartment.
And I looked around and there was a big whale. I didn't, what on earth is that? That's the Oklahoma. The Oklahoma had capsized, we didn't even know it, and it was right so close I could have hit it with a ball. I felt like somebody kicked me in the stomach with a boot or something, because that's the worst I ever felt in the whole war, to see the Oklahoma. You just don't kill a battleship. They're impregnable. Tough.
But the hull of the battleship has been torn apart on the port side, and water is still pouring in.
We took these clothes and the blankets and stuffed them in the vent system to try to stop the water from coming in. Well, we'd plug it up in one place in the vent, then it'd start coming in somewhere else. It came up to my waist. Then the air pressure held it, keep from filling the compartment up.
More than 30 sailors are trapped inside the overturned Oklahoma. For them, the personal agony has only just begun. The warships of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, moored at Battleship Row, have been devastated by the first wave of over 80 Japanese aircraft.
It was in shambles. We couldn't imagine. The California was going down. The Oklahoma had capsized. The Arizona was blown almost in half.
Over to the east, Kaneohe Naval Air Station is also in flames, but the sailors are staging a counterattack.
I was a chief petty officer, and my job, if it killed people, that was my business. Guns, rockets, bombs, all stuff was what I'd been doing since I was about 18 years old.
John Finn takes over a .50 caliber machine gun on an exposed airbase ramp and begins to strike back.
I was angry, so damn mad that I didn't have a sense enough to be afraid. Of course, during this time, I was being wounded. Because the Japs, they ain't joking, they were there to kill us.
John Finn is hit over 20 times, but he continues to fire back at the attacking Japanese.
I think it would have been impossible to fire as many rounds as I fired at a plane and not hit them.
As phase one of the attack ends, one pilot makes a final run on the base.